Hello everybody, it is CFP today for January 9th, a Friday. Happy Friday if you're listening out there. If you're listening on the weekend during a dog walk, on a drive, you're going somewhere, enjoy. For those of you watching on YouTube, which by the way we are available on YouTube, I apologize for the framing of the last video, the Michael Falls to Western video, because that was me forgetting not to cut my entire forehead off, which to be fair, huge forehead, very easy to cut off if it's in the wrong spot, but as I say that, I push back from the camera here trying to remind myself. We are brought to you as always by Fox 40. Check them out, fox40shop.com is the place to go. You will probably get tired of me saying that because they have been such great support to us, and I'm doing more stuff during the off season this year because I want a full year worth of podcast content, which is something I have found difficult to do in the past just because life has gotten in the way, but no more. That is done in my books, and so looking forward to doing this as much as I possibly can. Whatever pops up, might be transactions, coaching changes. I might do one on some of the finalized coaching staffs being announced, some of the ripple effects throughout the league. Also a really funny coaching change that kind of went under the radar, but Edmonton, Toronto, I'll just leave those two names there and you might be able to connect the dots. Anybody out there who can, you are a true CFL diehard if you understand why a certain Edmonton-Toronto coaching change that was just announced, finalized, could make you laugh if you remember the Edmonton game in Toronto this year and how it ended and why it ended the way it did. Anyways, I'll get into that one in a different video perhaps, but for now, I want to talk about the CFL coming out with what's going on during winter meetings, the discussions, what they're going to be applying to, what it all means. The first thing that was listed, and this kind of made me laugh, I've never heard the term cascading tactical rules, which sounds like a Jason Statham. Actually, no, Jason Statham would get the shit kicked out of him by Dwayne Ford. So we're going to make a new Crave original series, okay, for Bell Media. Coming this fall, Dwayne Ford stars in the action thriller you've been waiting years for, Cascading Tactical Rules. This September, only on Crave. Cascading Tactical Rules required to implement structural changes announced in September, for example, the last 3-minute rules. That is going to be considered. That one I find to be most interesting because that was one of the things that kind of pissed people off the most, I felt like, about the entirety of the rule changes coming out, being announced was, okay, yeah, we see the way that these are being implemented, the timeline, how things are being kind of staggered, and then everybody was like, wait a minute, we can change a bunch of stuff to make things more exciting, potentially, because we don't know what all the rule changes are going to end up having their impact be, but things that could make quarter 2, quarter 3, start of the fourth quarter good. Final 3 minutes is already good, so let's not ruin that, or let's not change that so it's unrecognizable. So in all honesty, I think that will be the most interesting topic of discussion. Maybe it's, whether it's alphabetical or otherwise, why it led off with this stuff, because application of rule changes in the final 3 minutes, thankfully there's a lot of very smart people that know the game much better than I do who have had to make decisions based on rule changes and implementation of different restrictions and strategies, e.g. coaches, like the people that are involved with the rules committee, that will be able to go into that room and like Dave Dickinson and Mike O'Shea will be saying, hey, in the final 3 minutes, I know you guys think it's going to look like this. Let's actually think about this in the game, what this is going to look like, how this is going to come off to people and to fans. And so I think they will get that stuff right. What is the right answer to how to implement things, what to implement, what to not? I have no idea. I honestly don't. I'm excited to see where they take it, and then we can all criticize it together. And if something goes well, then I'll make sure to give it lots of credit. Additional rule changes. Annual review of proposed rule changes brought to the Rules Committee. Short yardage plays, modifying or reducing quarterback sneaks, pre-snap penalties. So the pre-snap stuff I don't care as much about. I have been saying for years, and I'm never going to take credit for that because I'm not one of those media people who's like, I said it, and that's why they're making the changes, and I am the one who I don't care. I don't need the credit. I also don't think I deserve the credit because I just kind of like mumble it under my breath because I'm not really somebody to scream from the mountaintop anytime I think something needs to be tweaked. This has always struck me because Stu Johnson has always said, like, we want to be the most entertaining game possible. This is a made-for-television product that we want to attract people and young people and all these kind of things. There is nothing worse, in my opinion, for the Canadian Football League than a highlight pack where 3 of the 4 touchdowns are 1-yard sneaks. That sucks. Like, to me, that's always been when people go, well, the NFL's better, or the NFL's not better, or the Canadian game, the 3 downs are better. There's a million different ways to approach this thing. What is unquestionably worse is CFL highlights when we have to show how teams scored touchdowns. And if it's a game that didn't have a lot of other plays, because you can breeze past a touchdown. You can say, well, this up and down the field they went, and a 1-yard plunge by Chris Streveler into the end zone made it a 2-score game, whatever it was. You can just bypass it. But most of the time, the touchdown's kind of important. You kind of need it in order to like show the big moment of emotion. Like, the NFL runs real offense from the 1-yard line, unless you're the Eagles and you start just doing tush push and everybody starts adapting to that. But for the most part, there's real offense being run. Like, you can be on the 2-yard line, and I freaking love when a team will go like shotgun snap, ride play action, and fake it to the flats, tight end on a backside crosser. Boom! You rip it into a window and you score. You rip it off the defender's helmet, and then you spike the football, go crazy. What do? There's so many times on the goal line where it's like, well, fantasy sucks because backup quarterbacks take away the running back touchdowns. Like, there's great running backs in this league who have 3 touchdowns in a season because the backup quarterback's going to take everything once you get down inside the 5. So that sucks, and it's stupid. It's not good for entertainment value. Our highlights are worse, and we don't run real offense, even though we did have the biggest offense, as you can tell. I love the 20-yard end zone. But now that we're going to this, we still have larger end zones than anybody else, and I would like to run real offense down there. So my idea has always been, and this is what I was, I guess, getting at in terms of like not something I need to take credit for because I don't think we'll ever do this. When you are inside the 5-yard line, the rugby, I always say rugby scrum, and I get yelled at by rugby people, whatever it is, the ruck, I think, the rugby ruck, of just smashing each other together and low man wins and you plunging into the end zone, outlawed inside the 5. And everyone's going to be like, oh, that's not real football. I don't give a damn if you sneak when it's 3rd and 1 at your own 20, or at the other team's 20, or at the other team's 11. What I don't like is the touchdown where I'm calling a game for the CFL and TSN, and I go, instead of, a Bo Levi Mitchell play action, pump flight to the flats to Greg Bell, looks over the top into the end zone, Kenny Lawler rips it down. Instead, here's Taylor Powell, or Antti Litre. Takes the snap, touchdown. And obviously we get more excited than that, but that's what it feels like internally. It's like, oh, look, they got the thing they were supposed to get because you're a yard off the ball. That's not exciting. That's not good for the league. So changing the proposed ways that short yardage works, I'm a huge fan of that, especially if it affects scoring and the way that scoring gets kind of oriented. But overtime, potential format adjustments during the regular season, says the press release from the CFL. I'm a fan of this as well because as much as determining wins and losses is important in the regular season, the regular season, I think, is where you can kind of play with some of these things and see whether or not they could apply to the greater extent of the game. I don't want like massive overhaul of overtime because I think the college-style shootout type stuff is great. Certainly more entertaining. But what I do love is the idea that CFL is willing to be forward-thinking. I put into context, I guess, like the CEBL deciding to go with whatever the finish is, where it's the target score instead of the clock. That's cool as hell. And I remember when Mike Morreale did that when he was with the CEBL, and at first I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And then the NBA validated it by using it at their All-Star game, I believe. It was the first time they had done that, or there was something WNBA related, but the target score stuff in basketball changes everything. Entertainment value, fan excitement, the implications, the strategy, and I'm addicted to it. Like, if I tune into a CEBL game and it's in the 4th, I'm like, I'm sticking here until I can watch the end of the target score to see who wins this game, especially if it's for a championship. Now, sometimes you end up with like a free throw for a championship. That sucks. But that's kind of the implications of changing things, is you're going to have these unforeseen consequences, I think. So the overtime stuff being looked at, I think, is interesting. The Replay Center review of their mandate, say this, the first thing when Stuart Johnson became the commissioner, it went from being the command center. We command you to do what we say. It's the Replay Center. I think that gives you a sense where things are trending over time. Negotiation lists. American player draft as a potential alternative to acquiring and managing U.S. players' rights. That, again, in theory, cool, different, change things up. To me, that screams we're thinking of this as like a television property. It's like we have the Canadian player draft, now we can have an American player draft. Here's the problem. If you look at negotiation lists, there's, quarterbacks, maybe a stud, a guy who's fallen by the wayside, like a Josh Gordon last while, that you would say, oh, interesting, he's on their list. We went through a period of time as well where it's like Tim Tebow was on list, Brett Favre was on list, Johnny Manziel. Oh, we did end up here. Johnny Manziel was on list. But they're all, it's kind of like the negotiation list has become either the superstar you hope is going to be there, and then eventually they're obviously not, but you kind of shoot for the stars and land at the moon kind of thing. Or, or is that the other way around? Shoot for the moon, land at the stars. I don't know. You get the idea. Or is that a player who's really troubled that you hope can straighten themselves out, come up here, and be good for you? Jared Gillen. Make your own determinations on that one. So I look at the idea of doing the American player draft. If people really care about the CFL, you go through the negotiation list, and when it's like, Jonathan, I don't know, I'm going to use Trinidad Chambliss' name as an example. Like Jonathan Trinidad, who's a linebacker from UTEP. That's not made for TV. Because then you draft a guy. Is he forever yours? Or you just like trade his rights? You hold on to it? Because there's a lot of people where it's going to kind of be like when the draft for the NFL used to be at Radio City Music Hall and you're in the 7th round in the Jets draft. And they have to find that one fan who's really diehard Jets. And it's like, the New York Jets are proud to select Chris Johnson, right guard, Wisconsin. And they cut to the Jets fan, and he's like, who is that? Who is that guy? Is he good? I'm willing to cheer for him. We have no idea. This is the stupidity around draft culture in general. So being able to make that a bigger deal with the American draft stuff, good in theory, in principle, in execution, I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. I think it's the players that people will care about are the ones who showed up in week 1, week 2, week 3 and start balling, and then you're like, oh, I like it. Isaiah Wooden? I like this guy. Yeah, Damian Alford, even though he's the number 1 pick in the CFL, the Canadian draft. You see somebody play, you're like, I like this person. Yeah, they got it. This is worth being able to cheer for. So that'll be an interesting one in terms of negotiation lists and what they look like moving forward. I don't think they really drive fan engagement until you have a player that you can reference as, well, they were on our negotiation list, and look, they're top 3 in the CFL in receiving yards. But in the moment, that's not really going to create much of a change, in my opinion. Olympic guidelines. How is the schedule going to be impacted in 2028? It's crazy to think about, but we're only 3 seasons away from being able to go through this Olympic cycle. CFL player eligibility and participation limits for camps and or Los Angeles 2028. I'm excited to see where they take all of that, because what restrictions will they put on guys that want to be part of that are eligible for that. I also, not gonna lie, I felt like total shit for all of the guys that were playing for Paul LaPolice and Team Canada, because if you follow them on social media, a lot of those players are guys that have bounced around, played in Europe, been in the Canadian Football League, bounced their way out, kind of free agents, and it's like they had dedicated themselves to, I'm going to rep Canada. And they still might, because in often cases, tackle football players don't end up being the guys that the diehard, I want to almost say like the degenerate flag football players can be, because the degenerate flag football players are so dedicated to the art and the craft of that when guys take their pads out, they're just like, I play for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I play for the BC Lions. And you walk in, and the flag guys are like right there in terms of skill level, and they know the game better. It's like, that's an interesting one that anybody who's played football, I feel like, feels that. I know for me, I tried to play flag a couple of times, and I was so bad. And I had people being like, do you know what you're looking at? I'm like, not in this. No idea how to read this, no idea where to throw, no idea the timing, hate that there's a free rusher, all of these kind of things. So, but the idea of players being eligible for that and being away from their team for a while, and what the schedule looks like if it's not impacting a huge number of players, is intriguing. But those players that were playing for Paul LaPolice and Team Canada, Football Canada, quite often they were putting out things like, it's just so great to have somebody believe in you. And then the CFL was like, hey, look, CFL players are eligible. And it was almost like this, just assumed that all of these players that have been kind of qualifying and whatnot for different things for Football Canada might just get washed out. Because why would you play Michael O'Connor if you got Nathan Rourke? Who gives a shit? Get rid of that O'Connor guy. He sucks. That's kind of what everybody was thinking. And that's kind of the vibe I got on social media. I was like, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but also, even if it is true, why do we need to make Michael O'Connor look like he's lesser than? just because Nathan Rourke is a freak and he's that talented. Michael O'Connor's pretty amazing at what he does, but that's kind of the nature of this beast. So the playoffs, potential adjustments for the Grey Cup playoff format for future seasons. I don't know what that looks like. If they want to move games to Saturday, otherwise Grey Cup Saturday, so people can be hungover on Sundays if that's what you're into for your Grey Cup week. Sure. Free agency and communication window, potential adjustments to the format and time. This actually reminds me of college football talking about the calendar and how they want to shift things because the insanity of Ole Miss being in the college football playoff until the U beat them the other night, and the transfer portal's already open. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I've heard Nick Saban talk about this. There's just so many different ways that they could make the calendar better, but they have to get the right people in the right rooms. In college football, with as much money as there is and diverted interests and conference commissioners who disagree on everything, let alone athletic directors and the NCAA, who has absolutely no reign over any of this mess, it's a lot more complicated than the CFL getting together with the Board of Governors and the presidents in the CFL alongside the commissioner and the football operations department and saying, hey, we're all going to get on the same page. Nobody be an idiot. If you have a disagreement, sure. But like, it's consensus has got to kind of be like the king, I think, when it comes to shifting things around on free agency and the communication window and really the calendar at large. I think it's easier to do in the CFL than it is in the NCAA. So I'm hopeful that they find some good solutions on that. New league-wide commercial inventory on uniform branding opportunities. I didn't bring this up because I wasn't doing many pods during the playoff stuff, but what were those ads that showed up? Like, I remember when Winnipeg was playing Montreal. I don't remember who it was. Was it Mobil? The like league partner gas stuff? But it's like everybody had the big, I'm not gonna lie, ugly branding on. I think except for Collaros, maybe except for Davis Alexander. Was it on the back of the jersey? I'm literally thinking about this for the first time since November, as we sit here at the start of January. But the branding stuff is intriguing to me because there's a right way to do it, and then there's a really obnoxious way to do it. And anytime that new advertising shows up, like, I don't know, let's say Oreo on the Leafs helmets, or whatever it might be. At first, it shocks you, and it's like, that's ugly, and I hate it, and I don't want it anywhere near my uniform. Over time, like, the more I watch the NHL with the logos on helmets, I don't care. If you were to slap a logo instead, like a branding logo instead of a team logo on a helmet, I think we would all revolt. It'd be awful. But also make the league probably some pretty good money, and over time we'd probably get used to it. If you did like one side of the team and one side the sponsor, I don't know. The problem I really have with this is, at what point do you reach your maximum? Like, what is the extent of, well, we've sold half the helmet, why the hell not just double it and make it the other side of the helmet as well, so we have maximum visibility and we double our income on the profit of that? Oh, we've sold the helmet, why don't we we do sideline branding, and then we do in-stadium branding, and then we do, why can't we put a logo on the pants? Why not? We've got one on the lower back of all the jerseys in the playoffs, and now we've got the two that are. At what point do you just is the jersey just one big commercial? You're like, congratulations, the Montreal Alouettes jersey you've always wanted. It's got 17 sponsors and no team logos. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's my fear, is that we've already kind of lost the like classic uniform era in the history of not just the CFL but sports at large. And I genuinely wonder sometimes when I see like, how can we push these boundaries? People get angry, and then people get used to it, and then we all move forward because they've already made their money, and we're just going to move forward with our lives. We're going to watch the football regardless of whether or not there's a logo on the helmet or the back of the jersey. But it just looks worse. It does. Like, it's when you watch old football and you see this just like crisp, clean jerseys that are not messy and don't have sponsors with colors or logos that conflict with all the other stuff, and it just looks better. It just does. So I don't know if that's potentially what they're talking about, but the branding opportunities and the league-wide commercial inventory, I think that's kind of where my brain goes. End-of-season player recognition. Dwayne Ford. That's all I have to say. My guy Dwayne has been right forever. He remains right. We have all been banging the drum. This is the easiest change. This is like when they're talking about putting the teams on separate sidelines from the original rule changes. This is this round of, yeah, that's easy. And what I'm talking about when I just say Dwayne Ford, Dwayne has been saying forever that when you have Tyrell Ford and Brady Oliveira on the same team, you shouldn't have to nominate one of them for the most outstanding player. It should just be the most outstanding players, or the most outstanding Canadians, I should say, from team. Like, if you one team has all three of the most outstanding Canadians, I don't know, let's say that 1 year it becomes just for theory's sake, Matthew Betts, Nathan Rourke, and Justin McInnes. If they each statistically have the most insane season, the nominees for most outstanding Canadian should all be BC Lions. That's a super easy fix. Like, just do it the way that it makes sense, so that, because right now, be honest, the last decade that I've been voting on CFL award things, so many times I have sat down and I've gone, easy pick, easy pick, easy pick. You know why? Because the system has frayed the voting in a way that when I just look at the names and I understand the resumes, and even when you plug them in, sure, you can make the argument, hey, Bo Levi Mitchell maybe should have won the MOP the last couple of years. I think definitely in 2024. But 2025, it's like, Nathan Rourke had a crazy year. Bo might be, yeah, it was right there. Yeah, it was possible. And then you start going through different awards, and it's like, oh, that's just not even like close. I don't think that's a discussion that needs to be had. But the system has created that where the awards are just kind of like one big fart. In my opinion, I've felt like that in terms of the voting. Now, the show itself is great. The awards, the production, all of those kind of things, I think it should be on TSN as well, which would be great if they could get that turned into an actual like television broadcast production, because I know Kate Burness and Milt Steele have done a great job hosting that the last couple of years. They're already CFL and TSN personalities. They do a fantastic job. The league puts a lot of effort and a lot of money into the awards. Why are we not broadcasting it? Never really understood that. But yeah, the award recognition, Dwayne Ford. He's had that right for a long time, and he'll continue to have it right. And then contingency planning related to inclement weather. I don't know how they're going to tweak that, but definitely needs to be addressed. I wonder if they're going to make the window of waiting shorter. Like if it's really bad, they're setting the timeline of like, hey, this is now a 2-hour thing, and if we don't get the game kicked off within 2 hours of kick, then we're not going to make players and fans sit in the stands until 4 hours before. You're supposed to have a 7:30 kickoff, and now it's 11:30, and we're trying to squeeze the game in, so people are running the ball just to get the hell out of there so they can still make their flight. Like, that's not great. So I wonder if they're just going to shorten the window on potentialities. The difficulty in that, obviously, is you have terrible air quality at kickoff, and you get close to like 2 hours, and it's like, it's on the verge, but we've hit the 2-hour limit, we can't play this game. And at 3 hours, the wind blows through, and it's great, and everyone's like sitting at home as the sun hasn't even gone down going, well, I wish there was a CFL game tonight, but we weren't patient enough to sit around and wait for it. Again, there's pros and cons to all of these things and the changes that could be made. So, and the final one, player compensation transparency. Awesome. I know 3 Down has been doing that for a while. Whatever they can report, they do, and I applaud that. I think it's a great way to be able to bring the game to people. Do I need to know what Stavros Katsantonis is making? No, I don't care. He's making good money. That's all I care about. As long as he's making good money, awesome. I think it's interesting because it gives a window into how players are appreciated and what their value is to a team. Because when we hear those offers of this guy could have made blank with team Y or X or Z, but he decided to stay with team blank for X or Y or Z, now we have things in the media that we can actually discuss. Instead of years gone by where it's just like, yeah, he re-signed with his team. Well, there was an offer on the table, potentially from Saskatchewan, but this guy re-signed with Winnipeg, and we don't know what he's going to make. So, I hope that they make that transparent. It's one of those things I'm like, in the NFL, that's pretty standard. Why have we not been doing that in the CFL? Probably because the wages are less, and they're scared of making people stay away from the Canadian Football League, because a potential player is going to look into what the salaries are and be like, oh, hell no, I could make practice roster in the NFL if I just stick it out, if I just keep grinding. I think people that want to be here are going to be here, regardless of what the salary number is, because the first time somebody who wants or might want to come up has a discussion with somebody up here about what the salaries are, they're going to have that information anyways. So what are we scared of? Stop being scared. Start reporting the numbers. Start bringing in more and more people. So that's going to do it for today. I don't even know how long I went on this podcast today. I was just rambling away on this thing. Looks like, 24 minutes. How about that? More to come. More to come as we head into the weekend. I am off to the International Center in Mississauga for a motorcycle show this weekend, so that should be fun. Taking my son Noah. Going to go look at the bikes as we go through winter withdrawal, and see what other headlines come out as we head towards free agency. By the time that we hit Tuesday of this coming week, we will officially be 1 month out from CFL free agency. On February 10th, I believe, is when the negotiation window closes and the official signings can start raining upon us as we get set for the 2026 CFL season. I also have an article coming out on CFL.ca next week that you can pay attention to if you're into that kind of thing, about one burning question that will define each team's season as we currently stand. So, for example, what will the Drew Brown, Ryan Dinwiddie pairing look like in Ottawa? Like, that's going to define what Ottawa's entire season looks like. And I'll try not to make those all quarterback related, because it'd be really easy to be like, can Cody Fajardo take another step under Mark Killam? Is Davis Alexander fully healthy? It'd be easy to do all quarterbacks. I'm going to mix and match and try some different things with that. But yeah, that'll be up on CFL.ca come next week. So thanks to Fox 40 for the support. As always, have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you.